Hey, everybody. Welcome back to A Late Show. Joining me now is the former super mayor of Newark and the current junior senator from the great state of New Jersey. Please welcome back to A Late Show, Senator Cory Booker. Senator, thanks for being here.
Stephen, it's great to be on with you again.
We're coming up on 2 weeks. We're 12 days since the attack on the Capitol by the MAGA mob. D.C. has turned into a fortress, at least parts of it have. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think, honestly, I think most of us are feeling a lot of hurt and a lot of grief to see what our country has become. The Capitol now, all the strength and the military and the presence, that's not a sign of success as a nation. That's a sign of weakness as a nation. And being on the floor of the United States Senate when we were under siege and watching my colleagues on both of the sides of the aisle have to flee the seat of power in the most powerful nation in the world, to see its elected leaders, its first branch of government, have to flee for their lives is really a defeat for our nation. And I think it's something that all of us should take very personally.
You were in the Senate with all the senators for the certification on January 6th. What was that experience like in that building that day?
It was, I think, for so many folks. I still remember on the floor seeing staff members break out in tears and seeing the sort of haphazard sort of locking down of that room. I think that a lot of folks have never experienced something like that, where they felt their life under threat. And I will never forget going out, and I tried to leave last, knowing that there were senators who are older than I was. And as I was coming out the rear, just seeing police officers who had been injured already. And then I think the thing that was most painful for me, Stephen, that was a point that at that point, something in me really broke, was seeing the Confederate flag being waved. I sit in the back of the United States Senate by the door, and to know that that Confederate flag was waving there just feet from me. And, you know, I've never lost that feeling of going onto the Senate floor and how special that is. But I have a family, a black family, that has told me, as the fourth black person ever elected properly to the United States Senate, all the sacrifice and struggle that had to happen in this country, and the death and the brutality had to be faced in order to be on that floor. And to have, you know, it'll be January 21st, 1861, that Jefferson Davis gave his farewell and seceded with other states to try to affirm white supremacy, slavery, and rebellion against this nation. And to have that flag waved triumphantly, defiantly, on that sacred civic space, that to me is something that deepens my conviction more than ever to deal with this scourge we have in this nation, this violent scourge of white supremacy, which I've watched Trump administration officials testify before Congress that the greatest terrorist threat we have in this nation, killing more than any other type of terrorism since 9/11, is right-wing extremism, and amidst that, white supremacy, from a black church in South Carolina to a synagogue in Pittsburgh. We are in a crisis, and it's a shame that more Americans don't realize the urgency for us to meet what we saw take over the Capitol that day.
To see that flag be carried in a violent attack on the U.S. Capitol, I think once and forever buries the old lie that it's about cultural or regional heritage. It's just about hate.
Yes, and it is this failure to recognize not just the hatred and the bigotry, but a failure to recognize what we could be as a people, a multiracial democracy, speaking not towards a specific culture or race, but speaking towards the highest ideals of humanity, that us, differences, our diversity, but yet our interconnection to create a more beloved community, that should excite every American. And so I just find myself, you know, Martin Luther King said, I can't legislate you to love me, but I can pass laws to stop you from lynching me. I can't legislate to change a man's heart, but we can legislate to restrain the heartless. And so I know that as a legislator that there are things we need to do. But when it comes to the larger spiritual calling of this nation, when we are at our best is when we love one another.
I want to talk about some of the people on Capitol Hill who certainly give comfort to seditionists by the lies that they tell, because no fascist uprising ever happens without an elite who provides legitimacy and cover for the grievances of those who are storming the buildings. And have you seen the New Yorker footage that was recently released this week of people going through the Senate? People say, for instance, rifling through Ted Cruz's desk and saying that Josh Hawley would be fine with this. Ted Cruz would be fine with this. You said Donald Trump is being aided and abetted by a group of Republican House and Senate members. This is on them as well. We must rise from this nadir of shame. We must repair our democracy. We must heal our nation. I know, as I've said to other senators, it's the most deliberative body in the world, quite famously. But what is an appropriate consequence for having aided and abetted these people and inspiring them with the big lie?
Yeah, well, so you have to understand that, as you said, it's not the mad king. There will always be mad people like that. It is the people who are sane, who consciously, deliberatively forward the madness. And this is
because they think they can ride the tiger.
Yes. And this cancer began before the election even happened. We had a president saying, I will not commit to a peaceful transfer of power. If I lose, this was rigged. And then when the election happened, and you had local Republican officials, governors, secretaries of state, when you had members of his own cabinet, when you had the former attorney general saying these are lies, this was a fair election, and yet you have senators still perpetuating that lie. There has to be some kind of accountability, because we cannot have a redemption. We cannot have healing without accountability, without the truth being told, without responsibility being accepted. And so I don't know what the formal procedures we have in a narrowly divided Senate, but this is a moment of reckoning for us as a nation. If we want to heal, we've got to start telling the truth. And what we've done in this country, unfortunately, is bury a lot of our truths over with convenient Disneyland versions of America that has not spoken to the wretchedness, the mass killings that have gone on from Cincinnati to Louisiana to the Colfax massacre to even Black Wall Street. There have been so many incidences where people have just said, let's just turn the page and move on. But those wounds fester. And so what I just really want us to start having more of a reckoning in this country is to speak to the wretchedness that happened. Our nation's capital was under siege and attacked. And this wasn't a bunch of folks who just got up in the morning and said, you know what, let's take the Capitol. No, they were fed, they were wept up. This lie was pushed on them by people in the media who sit on networks and were telling and repeating the lie and giving platform to it. Political opportunists who seized upon this to try to drive that lie for themselves. And if we cannot admit that, if there can't be some kind of redemptive moment, then I fear that this problem will be much more difficult for us to deal with. We will have a lot more work to do as a nation.
We have to take a quick break, but stick around. When we come back, I will ask the senator a question that I'm going to guess you won't see coming.